right, it's talk time. The appeal court will continue hearing the Ondo governorship election petition by Electoral, and that's after the appellate court got a nod from the Supreme Court.
Now, the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onohe, who led a 5-man panel, dismissed 10 different motions filed by Jimoh Ibrahim faction, praying the Supreme Court to stop hearing of all matters relating to the governorship election in Ondo State. He
also said their decision was based on the fact that it was a pre-election matter.
These are not happy times for the Alimodu Sheriff-led faction of the PDP in Ondo State, as the 5-man panel dismissed each of their appeals on stay of proceedings and disqualification of the appellate court justices. While opposing the application, counsel to Eitayo Jegede, Wale Olanikpekun, SEN, described the appeal as a calculated attempt by the applicants to scandalize the judiciary. He added that there must be an end to frivolities. On the motion for disqualification, the justices of the Apex Court queried why there were frequent calls for disqualification of the justices at the lower court. They demanded to know where the appellant wants them to get justices that would handle the matter, asking if it should come from heaven. Justice Onogen said the trend was worrisome, saying that the counsel to Jimoh Ibrahim was trying to create confusion. At this point, Alimodu Sheriff and his group left the courtroom. Delivering his ruling, Justice Onogen dismissed the appeal for disqualification of the panel, stressing that joining them as respondents was an attempt to intimidate them and in bad taste. He added that such intimidation would not augur well with the nation's democracy. He subsequently ordered the counsel to Jimoh Ibrahim to pay the sum of 1 million naira each to the panel at the lower court and 500,000 naira to each of the respondents. Counsel to both parties reacted to the ruling.
The Supreme Court, which is the apex court in the land, has given a ruling dismissing the applications brought before it by the appellants and ordered the Court of Appeal to go and complete the appeals before it forthwith and with dispatch. I think it's very clear and very unambiguous. I think that's the summary of what happened today.
The main appeal is an appeal we complained that the joinder of Jegede in the Court of Appeal was fundamentally wrong, because Jegede was not a party in the trial court. He interposed at the Court of Appeal stage to be joined, and the principles for joining such a non-party were not complied with at all. That is why we came here to complain.
All eyes are now on the Court of Appeal on who will be the candidate of the PDP for the Ondo governorship election slated for Saturday.
All right, joining us in the studio is Ayodele Adewale, former local government chairman, Amowo Dofin, Lagos State. All right, Ayodele, it's good to have you join us. Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know you've been following the developments or the interesting developments in Ondo State, and as we move now, we have just few days before the election. The Supreme Court came up with the ruling yesterday, giving the appellate court the go-ahead to hear the case and all of that. But before we even go into the specifics, what do you make of all of this political arrangement in Ondo State?
Well, some part of it is expected. I mean, it's all politics. People come in with different intrigues in order to have their own way, as the case may be. But most importantly, whatever the game, I mean, is about, it must be followed, I mean, through the stream of the rule of law. And if nobody veers off the law, then there's no problem.
Okay, so now what do you think the implications are for Eitayo Jegede, who has hardly had any chance to do any campaigns? Yes, he's been given the go-ahead by the Supreme Court. How does that benefit him now?
Well, like I said, we must follow the stream of the rule of law. And for us to discuss this matter, it will amount to sub judice, because the matter is before the court. And we cannot talk about the matter. That's their headache. They should find a way of resolving their problems.
All right, now with the crisis in People's Democratic Party as one of the parties, major parties in the coming into election. What advantage does it give to the APC and then the AD in Ondo State?
Well, it gives advantage to nobody.
Okay.
The major thing is the people, and the advantage will be enshrined in your party manifesto, what you have for the people, your party programs. Not to forget the person involved. Yes, the party is the container, but the person is the content. You can have a very good brand, but the content is not rich enough to sell the product. It becomes a problem. So you must try to marry the container and the content together in order to sell the product to the people. But in this market, it is the people that will determine what will happen.
And have these products been well sold to the people, that the people are able to actually
Well, we will see that on Saturday.
What product they should buy into?
We will see that on Saturday.
The people,
Or perhaps Sunday.
some are already calling for a shift in this particular election, you know, from the November 26th, considering all of the things that have played out so far, you know, saying it might not even be secure enough and all of that. But we'll look at that when we return from this short break. Stay with us.
All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast. On this segment, we're discussing the Ondo State election. Ondo State is one of the states in the southwest of Nigeria, and we're looking at the controversies in there and the fallout as the government there, as the people there prepare for election in just a few days from now. We have Ayodele Adewale with us in the studio. He was one-time local government chairman of a local government in Lagos State, and he is a politician. He's been monitoring these issues as we are following. Now, let me come to you on this. The people, I wonder what issues would drive the pattern of voting in Ondo State precisely coming on Saturday.
Majorly is about the people's living conditions, vis-a-vis accessible education that must be free, of course infrastructure that will help to improve the economic activity of the state. Security is also very important. We've heard a lot of things happening there, kidnappings, cattle rustling and all whatnot. And prudency, transparency in governance, pulling the people closer to government and allowing government programs to be people-oriented. These are things that will determine where the pendulum will swing to. You must not forget that an average Ondo person is an elite. It's an enlightened person, either literally or otherwise. And politics has been very, very enshrined there in a long time. In fact, a lot of crisis, even in the First Republic, many of it started from that enclave of the West or of the country. And they've had notable personalities, be it in politics, in business, even in theology and what have you. So the state is very broad, and they are very broad-minded people that also think very deep.
Is that what they have working against them? You know, a state where you have
exactly.
Yeah, so many enlightened people, well-educated people, and yet
so it becomes difficult for them to agree.
You know, recruiting, you know, who should govern them now is such a big crisis, and it cuts across, you know, all the parties, whether you're talking about the APC or even the PDP, that's actually in the eye of the storm right now.
Well, that is the bubble for them. That's the bubble for them. To be very enlightened, it also means that you don't get bamboozled by anybody. You understand? They're very conscious of happenings around them, and they don't get bamboozled. But most at times, they don't really get the ideal of the situation that is required. But of course, they've always had it in the past. You know, starting from Ajashi, nobody ever believed that Chief Ajashi was the one that propounded the free education system. It was not even Awolowo. That was told to me by Chief Anthony Nauru of blessed memories. That when Ajashi brought the system, Awu was even scared. And he had to explain very well that, look, with 5,000 teachers, Awu was asking, according to Nauru, that where are we going to get the money to pay them? How are we going to fund it? And he said, okay, we could use these simple structures that we have, Some can go in the morning, some in the evening. We can also borrow infrastructures, partner with religious bodies and all whatnot. And that was how it started.
That's
you understand? So a lot of things do happen there.
So do you think the people of Ondo State and the political gladiators themselves have actually learned from the lessons of what happened in 1983? You know, the things, what happened that led to the scuttling of the Second Republic?
Well, learning is a continuous process. It's a continuous process, and some people have this thought that at times God brings some kind of leadership to whip people into line. But of course, narrow it down to reality, contemporary reality. It means that the people themselves must try to fight for what they want. If they want better living condition, ab initio, you should look at the personality involved that is ready to administer this good governance to you. You should also look at the carryability of this person and also look at the affiliates that this person have around him that he can pull as goodwill in order to make things function.
All right, we're looking at a chunk of the people who are supposed to be part of the election in Ondo State on Saturday saying if a certain person is not the flag bearer of the People's Democratic Party, there won't be election that day. Some are already calling for the postponement, as the case may be. Now, what scenario could play out when it comes to security, when it comes to peaceful conduct of the process on Saturday if the status quo remains?
Well, to start with, an average Ondo person can never be undermined, regardless of the fact that you wield weapon or what have you. They will always confront you, and they always stand by their rights. Secondly is that I don't know how you got this, your chunk of people, you understand? Because from my own perspective, I see a lot of them as rented crowd. Because I come from a civil society platform. I also belong to a political platform, and I know how this thing play out.
Yeah, but when the governor, Bishop Mimiko, says without a Jegede there will not be
Let me ask you a question.
election.
Why will a governor be panting if he has done well?
Okay, good, very good question.
If a governor has done well, you don't have to pant. You don't have to move. The system naturally will return you. I'll give you a scenario. During my second term into office, I was just doing my job. People were coming, will you contest, will you do this, will you do that? I didn't mind. I didn't even listen. I was just doing my job. Even the Council of Imams came, led by the Baba Oba of Lagos, the senior brother to the Oba of Lagos. With the Council of Imams came and said, you must contest. Khan came, you must contest. And there are visual evidence to prove this. So the people know the leader that works. The people know the leader that can put food on their table. So if a governor have done well, you don't even need any campaign. The people will definitely vote for you, even if your name is put there a day through the elections.
Okay, now we'll come back to this. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission says the governorship election in Ondo State will hold on Saturday as scheduled, despite calls for postponement by some political parties.
Of INEC's preparedness and neutrality. INEC has no candidate in the election. You are all INEC's candidates. However, where an inter-party dispute becomes the subject of litigation, resulting in specific court orders, INEC shall obey such orders until they are set aside by a superior court. We remain committed to these guidelines. And let me reiterate this. We remain committed to the guidelines, we remain committed to the rule of law. On this note, I wish to reiterate that INEC has no plan to postpone the election this year.
The election cannot be held under this crisis, and the Yitayo Jagade's name must be returned into that list. We are on our ground again. We want the INEC to know that we are suffering. We want Yitayo Jagade's name to be back, and we want the postponement for this Saturday election.
There is crisis in the land. They should postpone that election. That is all we are asking for. And that INEC should be an unbiased umpire. We want the judiciary to be the last hope of the common man.
This is a totally different dimension to all of
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
Now, when women come out, very strong voices there and saying, look, we want this election to be postponed. There is crisis in the land. And, you know, if our man is not there, this election should be moved forward. Are there enough reasons for INEC to actually, you know, reconsider holding this election on November 26th? If it goes ahead, what are the implications, likely implications?
You must understand that INEC is not about self-serving. INEC has a rule. They have a law that governs them. Even if some people have been paid to come make some noise, it will not shift anything. What they should rightly do is go to court and try and get an injunction or a verdict, as the case may be. I'll give you two quick scenarios.
Yes.
Now, June 12. When June 12 was about to be dismembered, you understand, the outcome of June 12, we didn't see singular people coming out to clamor that Abiola be enthroned. Alongside singular people, we saw institutions come out. The council, I mean, the various professional bodies, civil society bodies, faith groups, even to the extent that some security organizations also threw their weight. Countries stood up. Now, bringing it down to 2003, when Asiwaju was to come back as governor, remember that the whole of the Southwest was governed by AD. It was only Asiwaju that returned.
Yes.
What happened to the rest? So it's about you connecting to the people. It's about you doing programs that connect directly to the people and touch lives. And I tell you, the people would stand and defend the mandate and make sure it is given.
Will they have their say this time around?
All right, now we will be going on the break shortly, but let me still ask this question. Now, the people are saying this election should be postponed. With the reasons they are given, it looks like, because they are calling the name of Eitayo Jegede, does it seem to be this is just about favoring one candidate or one person in the whole electoral process? Maybe I'll let you answer that. Let's go on a break and then we come back. Stay with us on the program. We're discussing Ondo State election in Nigeria.
Right,
Thanks for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. On this segment, we are discussing the fallout of preparation for election in Ondo State, in the southwest of Nigeria.
And the election is right around the corner. November 26th is the date, but there are voices crying out louder and louder and saying there is a need to move this election forward. Are there enough reasons to move this election forward if INEC does listen to this, you know, voices or not?
Now, before we
we'll
bring in Foladele, I was asking a question. I was asking Ayo a question earlier on. Now, the call for the postponement seemed to surround just one person, Eitayo Jegede, in here. If we have to consider that, is that justifiable to say because of one person, the election should be postponed?
Well, as much as I try to confine myself with some dictums in the law profession and ethics and all of that, that says that we can't discuss the matter, but for posterity and our people. You see, those who are playing on this stage, I'll call it a stage, that have been created by the ruling person there, they are not students of history. You understand? Now, if INEC should bend, what happened to the other two major contenders? Don't they also have followers? And I say they are not students of history. If you look at the Ukrainian revolution, when they brought down the government through the Orange Revolution, we're talking of a mass movement of people. Look at the French Revolution that dethroned the king. It's a mass movement. It's not few hundreds of people. We're talking of key stakeholders in that society coming out to lead their followers and cripple the system and bring it down. We're talking of millions of people. And by the time the results come out, you are going to be counting in millions, not in thousands. So you see about 150, 100 or 200 people paid, come out to dance on the stage. At the end of the day, they go home or even fight because the pudding were nowhere shared. No, let's be realistic here. Like I said, if they have performed very well, the whole of Ondo would have been locked down.
Is there a danger in two major institutions being caught in the line of fire here? INEC on the one hand, and of course the judiciary.
INEC is not locked down anywhere. INEC is simply following the rules as enshrined and as given to them by the Federal Republic. So INEC is in line.
Because some are already accusing INEC of
INEC is in line.
Okay.
There was a ruling, INEC obeyed. For INEC is as directed by the rule of law. So INEC has no problem.
Okay, we'll come back to this. Let's bring in Fola Dele in here to give us a perspective, reaction on social media. Fola, good morning again.
Fola, those are the four major people right behind.
Right behind
yes, major, very keyword. Okay, so let's get some reactions to this. But before I do, I do want us to dwell on the clip a little. I mean, it was very sad and just it was very heavy. And it's a bit scary as well, because when you think of a list of states that maybe are radical or states that where you could get violence, I don't think Ondo is one that would readily come to mind. Yeah. So I'm a bit worried, and I think some of us are quite worried about how this will pan out. But let's get some reactions online. Okay, Felix Sumab says, Olushola okay will surely win. # Ondo decides. Egghead says, so Ondo people, the elections is basically APC versus AD. Otumba Shiwaju says, if Jagede is declared the authentic candidate of PDP, I think we're in for one of the most interesting elections in Ondo State. Precious Suwuma says, this Ondo elections is not interesting at all. Go to River State and learn from the masters. Adedapo Latunde says, in quote, Jimo Ibrahim is a politician you only see during elections. After election, he is gone. I don't even think he stays in Ondo State at all. And the last one here from Adeni Temitokbe, who says, no electoral college here in Ondo State. Oh. Maybe if they had the electoral college system, it would change things. Adele, very dramatic one, very, very dramatic. Let me ask you, do you think that if Ondo people don't get what they want, they would actually, maybe there would actually be war, there would be violence after Saturday if they don't get what they want? Do you see that happening, or are they just threatening?
Well, I think we need to do a very clinical analysis when we talk about the people of Ondo. Yeah. You are talking about some interest in Ondo.
Yes, yes.
That doesn't mean that the people of Ondo, of Ondo is in a general term. You understand? I can tell you nothing will happen. You should compare the scenario with what happened during the Omobori era, during the wet year era. You understand? That was an orchestration against a particular interest, not a singular interest. You understand? It was a party thing. You understand? It's bigger than what we have now. And I don't think the government in place will sit back and allow some few elements burn down the state. No, I don't think the government in place would allow that. If any other government will, I don't think this particular government should.
Okay. All right,
Fola, thank you very much.
So would you expect some kind of, security lockdown just to ensure that, this process comes and goes peacefully without any crisis, where you have so many policemen and security operatives deployed to Ondo State?
Well, I wouldn't want us to use the word lockdown. Okay. Lockdown is more of a fascist word and all of that. What I would advise is that the security operative be very professional. Be very professional, regardless on the lackey that people might want to throw around, knowing fully well that they can also be caught in the web. They can be caught in the web. And they should be very, very professional about the conduct of their operations. And at the end of the day, you will see that it's just a scare.
All right, so some members of the People's Democratic Party, even in fact some of the like even the party, one of the factional party chairmen have mentioned that the crisis in the party is fueled or orchestrated by federal might. How do you react?
Somebody once said, talk is cheap. Anybody can say anything within this circumstance. But from where I come from, you must prove whatever you say. And you can also see clearly, it's not like what happened in Osun State during the second term of Governor Aregbesola, where people were physically intimidated. Some security operatives were wearing barracudas. You could not even see their faces. To the extent that even the rail safety were mobilized en masse. What is road safety going to do during an election process? I saw them. You understand? With plenty of new cars. I was not asking, where did they keep all these cars all this while? And we keep having carnages on our roads. You understand? That was a very divisive election, that it was very glaring that the power that be then wanted to do whatever they could. And the people came out, women came out to resist them. You could see that the people of Osun actually came out en masse, not what you're seeing now.
All right, okay, but before I, ask you my next question, let's, look at this. As the Independent National Electoral Commission promises it is ready for the poll, the people view, they seem undivided, but the police says it's ready for the poll.
Yeah, the State Commissioner of Police, Hilda Ibifuru Harrison, said about 25,000 police officers will be on election duty in the 18 local government councils of the state.
And she also warned politicians planning to unleash mayhem in the state to have a rethink or face the full wrath of the law.
More than 25,000 police officers for the election duties in the state. Not all of them have arrived, but quite a sizable number has arrived. Of course, they'll be deployed to all the nooks and crannies. The 18 local government areas comprising the 203 registration areas and the 3,009 polling units on election day.
Right, we just heard the police commissioner there. Now, if we have to look into security with the threats, certain kind of threats we're getting from some quarters, how prepared should the police be in true terms in preempting what could happen in order to ensure that there's a peaceful process on that day?
Well, if I'm not too wrong, that commissioner of police has been there for over 2 years now, or nearing 2 years, and by now she should know the flashpoints in that state. You see, security is about intelligence gathering. It's not about wielding arms and ammunition. It's about intelligence gathering. So by now, the police, the SSS, should know the flashpoints. The police, the SSS, should know where the arms, if there is any, are being stockpiled. The police, SSS, should know the routes that marauders will use in coming into the state. Those are areas where they can lock down and zero down on such situation if there is any. So it's not about just putting men standing around and showing guns, showing all of this that we are here.
But of course you have some 25,000 security officers.
It's not about the number, it's about the intelligence.
That will be deployed. Do you see, in the foreseeable future, a time when we'll be, doing our elections without having to deploy so many policemen, especially for election in just one state? And, looking at it generally, what is going on in Ondo State? Is it a reflection of how we have evolved so far in our democratic process?
Well, a wise man once said, power is not served a la carte. You take power. And power is very important. And the people know how important power is. And you should expect that there will be agitations. But in order to cool the system, it's more like a nuclear reactor. In order to cool it, you must continue to educate the people. Not only when election is getting closer. It must be a civic education that will be plugged into our education curriculum, starting from kindergarten. You must let people know that violence doesn't pay. In some climes, when you're agitated, the people will look at you and they'll be like, where are you from? Because they have been educated about these issues and they know it is wrong for you to use harsh words, for you to use harsh behaviors, or to physically attack anyone. So we must go back to the foundation of educating our people and of course breeding a very good society that we can all
we just saw the election in the United States. It was like a festival. People were happy. Just go to the polls, 2-3 days, 1 week, drop your votes, and then move on. And if there are some states, if you don't like who you voted for, you can go back and even upturn that. Now, if we liken it to back in here, you said earlier on that Ondo State is one state that has so many enlightened people. Before even going into the curriculum of catching them young, which is a long-term arrangement, people now who have, these enlightened people have traveled far and wide. They've seen other climes, how elections are conducted. They see the benefit of these things. Bringing it back home to the issue of political culture, imbibing a good political culture, even though you say politics is power is taken, it's not given. How should these people imbibe? How do we bring out the intellect and all of these to come to play in building a good political culture?
Well, for the short terms, there are some systems that must up their games, and one is the press. The press must continue to mirror the society to the people and letting them see the real situation the real situation.
Okay.
Tending it toward the ideal situation. They must see and they must choose what is desirous for them. Secondly is that we must use technologies. As we are now, there's no how to get out of this situation if we don't bring in technology to solve the problem. I give you a very miniature environment or society or enclave, as the case may be, Lagos State University. It used to be very violent when it comes to electoral processes and all of that. Some few students came up with a system, you understand, electronic voting. Now, so what these students did in the last 3 years is that whenever there's elections now, they just vote electronically. Now, the contestants too also imbibe that culture of social media and technologies. So in their campaign, they use the social media, use technology to reach out. So by the time they go vote, within 3 hours, we will see what the results are.
All right.
Nigeria has the brains, we have the funds, and we have the enablement. Now this government must demonstrate the political will. The last government brought in, what do you call these?
Card readers.
Card readers. Now this government must up the game.
Okay. All right, Ayodele Adewale, thank you very much for joining us on the discussion this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right, this is where we come to the end of the program. Tomorrow we'll be back again talking about Ondo State. Ondo State will still be part of our discussion. And don't forget, this Saturday, we'll be dwelling on that. Basically, our Ondo Decide studio will open and our reporters are everywhere in Ondo State. We're bringing you live reports of how the voting pattern will be.
Right here, definitely. Okay, if nothing changes, of course, it means the election will hold come November 26th.
Have a great day. I am Mike Okwache.
And I am Ngozi Alebu. Have yourselves a beautiful Wednesday. Bye now.